ranking the best center from every NBA team, the last of the rankings from every position. Now, numbers 30 through 25 aren't anything exciting, and they've all been playing at just about the same level all season long. We're just going to go through them really quickly with Willie Cauley-Stein, Alex Len, Dwight Powell, Ivica Zubac, Derek Favors, and Cody Zeller. See, I told you, nothing exciting. And not gonna lie, 24 is not too exciting either, but Daniel Theis deserved to mention because at first to start the season, it did look like Enes Kanter would have taken this spot, but since he's not a great defender and Theis is, it goes to him. Then Thomas Bryant takes 23 for Washington, and for the games he has been healthy for, he hasn't been really anything special this year. Still young and has some potential, but nothing major. Then 22 goes to the Cavs for Tristan Thompson, and this is his 9th year as a starter for the team, and in his prime at 28 years old, he's finally averaging career highs of 12 points and 10 rebounds a game. The man's an average NBA center at best, but for the Bulls and Wendell Carter at 21, he is averaging very similar stats to Tristan. The only difference is that Carter's defense away from the stats is at another level. The Bulls are still bad, but individually, Wendell Carter still has a lot of potential for years to come. Then Richaun Holmes takes 20 for the Kings, and the Kings brought in Dwayne Dedmon to be their starter this year, but it's been Holmes who stepped up and taken that spot. He might not be much more than a great role player for them, but he does play great with their style. 19, the Knicks and Mitchell Robinson. The man's playing great again this year, but is still coming off the bench behind Taj Gibson and only playing 22 minutes a game, mainly because he gets into foul trouble too often, and David Fizdale's trying to avoid that. Mitchell's a great shot blocker with a lot of potential though, and he's got to learn to control himself on defense and get a lot more consistent on offense too. I mean, the Knicks aren't winning games anyways. It makes no sense to not just let him start and foul out as many times as it takes for him to learn to not foul. He'll get tired of it eventually and learn his lesson. Someone who doesn't have that problem though is Jarrett Allen at 18 for the Nets. He's a great shot blocker that gets it done without fouling, which is why he ranks slightly ahead of Robinson. Now Nets coach Kenny Atkinson says Jarrett Allen's already one of the best centers in the NBA, but he's not ranking any higher than 18 for me. Like I said, the defense is already there for him. He just needs to improve his offensive game and he's set. Then we have the Lakers at 17 with Dwight Howard. And Dwight's not starting, but he still slightly takes this Lakers spot over JaVale McGee. I mean, both men play the same role for the team and are averaging very similar numbers. The only difference is Howard shooting 73% from the field compared to JaVale's 64%. And it's weird for Dwight that in the year that he's reviving his career, he's averaging career lows in nearly every single category. But it makes sense because his stats actually mean something now on a winning team. That brings us to the Bucks, who take 16 for Brook Lopez. And this year he's continued to prove that he's one of the best possible fits on the Milwaukee Bucks, coming in 3rd in the league for blocked shots and still knocking down nearly just as many threes as last season. I mean, it really is crazy just how much he's changed his game over the years, and pretty surprising we haven't seen too many other lower tier centers do the same. 15, the Grizzlies and Jonas Valanciunas. It looks like the Marc Gasol trade that landed the Grizzlies Valanciunas is officially a success. The man's averaging 15 and 10 right now on 60% from the field and 42% from the three when he actually does shoot from deep. And he's turned into a guy that consistently has good games every single night, but also has standout games every once in a while. He's a little older than the Grizzlies would like, but he's still going to be in his prime when the team's ready to make a real playoff run. But DeAndre Ayton's a little younger and comes in at 14 for Phoenix. And he hasn't played many games this year because of his suspension, but by now I'm convinced that he's going to be a star center in no time. He's got the defense, he's got the offense, he's shooting a good percentage and blocking a lot of shots. If himself and the Suns keep up this kind of progress every year, I think he'll be an all-star in no time. As for Marc Gasol, he takes 13 for the Raptors. And I know right off the bat you might be thinking this one is too high for Marc. I mean, he's only averaging 7 points, 6 rebounds, and 1 block a game, but he's a guy that we saw just how important he is in the playoffs. He's a leader, a lockdown defender, shooting 40% from 3, and one of the best passing big men in the NBA. Number 12, Steven Adams for the Thunder. Now, I've ranked Adams lower in the past, and everyone said that I was crazy for doing it. So from feedback from you guys, I'm putting him here at number 12, which should be high enough. Currently, he's yet to be traded, but there's still a lot of teams interested in him. And it makes perfect sense why, because he's the perfect team player at the center position. He doesn't ever really need the ball, but he rebounds, sets perfect picks and screens, and can score whenever he's needed to. Number 11, Miles Turner for the Pacers. And Turner had a lot of hype around him early on, and he is still good enough to rank in at 11, but it's kind of disappointing how little he's developed over the past few years. Don't get me wrong, he has improved in some aspects, but not how people were expecting him to. I mean, really all he's done to his game is add a 3-point shot. His defense has always been there, but offensively, he's still only averaging 12 points and 6 rebounds a game. And now we're into the top 10 with someone whose game has really developed recently, and that's Bam Adebayo Adebayo for the Heat. And Bam doesn't have a ranking to compare to from last year because Hassan Whiteside ranked in as the Heat's best center. But personally, he's done exactly what he was supposed to this year after the team traded Whiteside. He stepped up as a starter and is having a big time breakout year, now averaging 16 and 10 while he's still only 22. And his speed and his play down low has played a big part in the Miami Heat as a team also breaking out this year. I have no complaints about Bam, but what I think he does need to continue to improve on is to step up the defense a little bit and expand his game out to more mid-range shooting. Then he'll be set, and he's got plenty of time to do that. Then number 9 goes to Nikola Vucevic for the Magic. And Vucevic ranked in at 10 last year. And we can add this one onto the list of Orlando Magic mistakes. Because, I mean, personally, I said that I would have traded Vucevic last year when he was playing at his best. And seeing how all of his numbers are slightly down this season, that probably would have been the best move. But for some reason, the Magic didn't do that, and now they're sticking with him. They're still a playoff team, but I mean, nothing more than only a first round playoff team. At least they won't miss the playoffs like the Portland Trailblazers might, who have number 8 in Hassan Whiteside. And this is a huge jump from last year for Hassan, ranked in at 16. He was no longer a good fit on the Heat last season, but when Jusuf Nurkic went down with an injury, it made perfect sense for him to start on the Blazers. And he's been a great fit. He gave them the spark that they needed on defense, and he's leading the league in blocks right now with 3 a game, averaging 15 points a game, 14 rebounds, and on almost 60% shooting. Sure, he might still do a little stat padding here and there, but overall, I think he's doing a much better job as a team player, and a lot better than he did in Miami. Now the number 7 spot goes to Clint Capella and the Rockets, which is a small step from the 9th spot that he was last season. And over the past 2 years, Clint Capella has been two things: efficient and consistent. Alone just as a player, he probably wouldn't rank this high given his skill set, but like a guy like Brook Lopez, he benefits from playing in the perfect system compared to his style, thanks to being able to run the floor and catch lobs from James Harden all game long. It's led him to being as good as he has been and led to him taking the number 7 spot today. But the number 6 spot goes to the Pistons and Andre Drummond, who also moved up 2 spots this year from number 8 where he was last season. And I just spoke about it in a recent video. Drummond's game's really developed in the past couple of years, and he's also been another center in trade talks. I mean, you'd think with all these centers in trade talks, they could just all trade for each other and call it a day, but that's just not how it works. I will say though, I do feel like we're seeing Andre Drummond play pretty close to as good as he ever will, being on a bad Pistons team, but hopefully I'm wrong. Now we're in the top 5 with number 5 in LaMarcus Aldridge for the Spurs. And alright, Aldridge ranks in at 5 and also moved up 2 spots from a season ago. And after all these years at 34 years old, the man still hasn't really slowed down, which is great to see. On top of that, somehow he's shooting twice as many threes a game as he did in any past season, but making almost 44% of them halfway through the year. It hasn't been a great year for the Spurs, but seeing Aldridge still playing this good is definitely a positive. The Utah Jazz then take number 4 for Rudy Gobert, and this is also an improvement for him from the number 5 spot he ranked last year. And the man is continuing to get better every single season. When he was drafted, there was really no expectations that he'd be a good offensive player, but he's improved his game in nearly every single aspect every single season, to the point now where he's putting up 15, 14, and 2 on 68% from the field. But for as good as he is around the rim on both ends, that's where his game starts and stops. So I don't think I can really ever see him ranking any higher than these next 3 players, like Karl Anthony Towns at number 3 for the Wolves. He ranked in at 7 last year, which is good progress, and I mean, it makes sense. He's been statistically having his best season, and I really almost ranked him in at number 2, because he's putting up superstar kind of numbers, but he still doesn't lead his team to wins like the 2 players ahead of him do. I mean, sure, he was just injured for a month, but even in the games that he played that he was healthy, the Wolves have had a 9-16 record, and it seems like no matter how good he plays, he can't stop them from losing. But the organization hasn't done much to get him help either, which is a problem because he's one of the most complete centers in the league, but unless he requests a trade, it looks like a lot of his talents are going to be wasted. Then Nikola Jokic takes the number 2 spot for the Nuggets, and he was ranked at 3 last year, only mainly because Anthony Davis was playing center and easily took the number 1 spot. But he's at number 2 now, and I had to rank him ahead of Towns because, like I said, Jokic actually leads his team to wins. Now, if he never recovered from that extremely slow start to this season, he would have ranked much lower, but he's finally back to being himself, which is a good sign for now, but does leave questions about his work ethic for the future. And it was a close call, but the number 1 spot goes to Joel Embiid for the 76ers. He was at the number 2 spot last year, but like I said, Anthony Davis was playing center, so he really had no chance of the number 1 spot. And between Jokic and Joel, the race for the best center in the league is still pretty close. You got a dominant true big man that can shoot threes, or an all-around big man that can do a little bit of everything. For now though, I'm leaving the rankings like this, and we can reassess things again after the playoffs. As you can tell though, a lot's changed for these center rankings over the past season. So comment if you think I got most of them right, or on any of them you thought were completely wrong. Don't forget to drop a like, subscribe, and I'll catch you next video.